Welcome to the Music, Money, and Life podcast. This podcast is brought to you by howtolicenseyourmusic.com. If you want to learn how to make money writing music for TV, films, and ads, visit howtolicenseyourmusic.com today for a free video series all about how to write music specifically for use in TV shows, films, and commercials. Music, Money, and Life is the podcast that brings together the best minds in music licensing, music publishing, music marketing, and more together in one place. Learn how to license your music and market your music. Learn the latest cutting-edge techniques for getting your music heard and making money from your music. Learn directly from the musicians and industry insiders on the front lines of the music business. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review in iTunes. Every positive review helps us rise up the ranks in iTunes, gain more subscribers, and attract more and more great guests. And now, without further ado, here's today's podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Music, Money, and Life podcast. I'm excited to be back today. Today I'm speaking with a composer and producer out of Atlanta, Georgia. I'm speaking with Anthony Clint Jr. Anthony, how are you?
Pretty good, Aaron. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for doing this, Anthony. So you were referred to me by Eddie Gray, and Eddie is someone that most of you are probably already familiar with at this point. But how do you know Eddie? How do you guys know each other, Anthony?
Wow. Eddie's a good friend of mine and great composer. We actually, I think I reached out to submit to his publishing company, HF Tracks, some years ago. I think it probably was about 2.5, 3 years ago now. And just reached out, submitted some music, and then he hit me back and loved what he heard, and that was kind of like the start of that relationship. And we've been working together ever since. It's been a really good friendship and relationship.
Nice. And what kind of tracks are you supplying to Eddie? What kind of tracks are you working on for him?
Everything from drama to orchestral to hip hop to pop, even like singer songwriter stuff, a little bit of everything, whatever he needs usually.
Very cool. Well, listen, let's do this. Before we jump further into the conversation, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is you do? Because I know you do a lot of different things. I know you're a composer. You're also a producer, and I know you make beats as well. But how would you describe what it is you do? Are you primarily a composer or primarily a producer?
Definitely. So, I guess I would label myself as a producer. I started producing about 16 years ago. I was a musician most of my life, just growing up in church and playing multiple instruments and things like that. And, just really got into music production around 15 and playing keys around 16, and just really fell in love with the whole process of, just creating a song from scratch, something that no one has ever heard before. So that was kind of the start of the production journey. And then, kind of moved on, went to college and, just honed on my keyboard skills and piano skills. And that really kind of took the things on the production side to another level. So there I played for a lot of different bands and groups and things like that around the city and in Columbus, Ohio. And, it just kind of grew from there. I ended up starting, my own production company, while I was still in college in 2009. And, the goal there was originally the plan was just to supply music, to artists, all over the internet, and just kind of have this online music production service. And, it kind of took a turn in the opposite direction because I was getting requests from artists, personally and in the city. So I was kind of working on projects hands-on in the city. And then that kind of just grew by word of mouth. From different artists around Ohio. And then I ran into a college buddy of mine who kind of introduced me to music licensing. And then that's when I started, just kind of getting into the whole TV and film side of things. And, at the time, my music wasn't really structured for TV and film. So I kind of went to some just different events out in LA to kind of learn more about how to, structure music for TV and kind of just how that whole industry worked. So I started getting into that. And then, while I was working with artists, I started songwriting as well. So I do songwrite primarily, mostly on the music side, though. If inspiration hit, I'll write a song. But I like to focus on the production. I just love producing music and mixing and recording and, just bringing out the best possible, product for whether it's an artist or a TV show or a film or whatever. So yeah, then I moved to Atlanta in 2011. It's been great since I've been here. I've been able, to produce music for Grammy nominated artists such as Tamar Braxton and Case and others, as well as a variety of different, TV shows and networks and, just things like that. So yeah, music producer, musician, and occasional songwriter is what I would label myself as.
Nice. Well, tell us a little bit about what it's like living and working in Atlanta. I've had maybe one or two guests on the podcast over the years that are based in Atlanta. For the most part, the people that I've spoken with have been in LA, New York, Nashville, places like that. But what's the scene like in Atlanta? I mean, I've heard really good things, but what is it like? What has it been like in your experience living and working in Atlanta as a musician?
I love it, man. The energy here is inspiring. I mean, since the first day I came down, it's just a different vibe. I mean, everybody's like on the grind. Everybody's trying to get to that next level, musically. So there's always events going on. There's always showcases. There's a ton of talent around here. I mean, from producers to songwriters, to artists to, the musicians. It's a great city to be in if you're into music, especially hip hop music. We pretty much have hip hop on lockdown here. I mean, all of the dopest hip hop talent, is coming out of Atlanta from the South. So it's a great city to be in, man.
Nice. Do you perform live at all, Anthony, or are you mainly in the studio for the most part?
Mainly in the studio now. I used to perform live and do a lot of live gigs in college, and then it was just the wear and tear, man, on equipment and time and gas, and it was exhausting, man. So I wanted to kind of settle down and just really lock in on studio work. So that's where I am primarily.
Nice. Yeah, that seems to be the consensus, for the most part of the people that I speak to that are pursuing and focusing on licensing, is that they prefer to get away from performing live and really focus on just writing and producing music. I seem to be one of the few holdouts. Like I really still enjoy playing live. I love it as much, if not more, as I love writing songs and recording them. I really love performing live. But let me ask you this, Anthony, of the music you're licensing, is it for the most part your music or the artists you're working with, or both?
Primarily it's been my own tracks, but recently I have been working with a group called APX, the APX band, and we actually have a Netflix film placement in the works for them. So I've been working real close with them to try and get them some placements and just opening opportunities up for new producers and up and coming producers to get that exposure and get those placements on TV and film. So I've been doing a lot, I guess, focus a lot more on kind of giving back and bringing other people into, music licensing who may not, thought to go that route musically.
Cool. And just to give people an idea of some of the places you've had your music placed, you've had music on TBS, the Oxygen Network, Bravo, the show Bad Girls, NCAA, True TV. I'm scrolling down here. Hollywood and Football. You've had a lot of different placements on a lot of different shows and networks. What kind of music, Anthony, are you placing for the most part?
Hip hop and pop music. And then I have an occasional show where it's more so like the adult contemporary or like inspirational kind of bright sounding music, piano, pad, strings, things like that. But yeah, the majority of my placements have been like hip hop and pop.
Cool. And who are you placing your music through? I mean, I know obviously Eddie Gray is somebody that you work with, but are you placing music through other libraries as well?
Yeah, definitely. Different libraries and publishers such as Eddie and BMG. There's a sub library through BMG that I work closely with as well.
Cool. How many different libraries are you affiliated with?
Sheesh. Well, I lost count. I lost count. The thing is, when I started this whole music licensing journey, the goal was just to really get in touch with as many companies as possible. And then from there, it kind of narrowed down to the companies that I worked well with and that I seen were getting placements the most. So I'm probably signed up with quite a few companies, but as far as ones that actually work well and get placements on my behalf, I would say it's a good handful, about three to five that I really focus on making good music for and submitting to on a consistent basis.
Nice. Now, how does it work? Because I know you said that you're primarily a producer, but you also create your own music. How does it work in terms of juggling those two different things? Do you sort of go back and forth? How do you balance those two different things?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question. I set up a schedule. So Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday I dedicate towards composing music for licensing myself, and then Wednesday I'll kind of use as a admin day, and then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday I'll focus on artist projects. If I'm working with the artist specifically, I'll just kind of focus on that. Or if I'm working on music that I want to send to other artists to pitch for placements or projects like that. So that's how I kind of split it up and balance it.
Cool. So you're doing 3 days of writing, 1 day of admin, and 3 days of production?
Yeah, definitely.
And then what are you doing on your admin days?
Usually editing content and creating content and just kind of coordinating with my assistant on what to post for the week, and just emails, maintenance of the website, things like that.
Cool. How big is your catalog? How many tracks do you have in your catalog?
Man, I would say I think we're at, I don't know, a little over 500 right now. If I'm going off of the CSAC repertoire list, I think it's around 500 if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, and you're with CSAC? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Cool. And what are the, I'm with ASCAP, and I think most of the writers that I work with are either with ASCAP or BMI. What is it like working with CSAC? What are the pros and cons of working with CSAC?
Yeah, I started out with BMI and then switched over to CSAC. CSAC for me was more family oriented. They really strive to support the independent producers and songwriters. And I really love that. And being in Atlanta, they had an office here, so it was easy to to just go in and talk. If you had questions, give them a call, set up a meeting. They were really accessible. I didn't have that accessibility with BMI when I came here, when they did have an office here in Atlanta. So it was a little different. I like that, just that, that personal touch that CSAC gives. And I mean, they're great. They put on a lot of events as well, from showcases to just informational forums, from entertainment attorneys and lawyers, as well as just different artists and producers that you would look up to. And I mean, you could just gain so much information from their events. I thought that was really cool. So I definitely wanted to partner up with them and start that relationship.
Cool. And would you say the performance royalties that CSAC distributes, is it pretty much comparable to ASCAP and BMI? What are the, I guess, pros and cons? I mean, I know at the end of the day they're pretty much the same in terms of what they pay, but has that been your experience working with CSAC? Yeah,
it kind of balances out. I mean, just from BMI to CSAC, I mean, it kind of evened out. I know in BMI had a few royalty checks. And it's no major difference. One bonus with CSAC is that if you're getting radio play from artists and things like that, CSAC pays radio royalties monthly. So that's a bonus with CSAC. So that would be like the major difference.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that, but the performance royalties are still distributed quarterly, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, let's shift gears. One of the main reasons I wanted to bring you on the podcast when Eddie introduced you to me in terms of being a guest on this podcast. He said that you make beats, and I know you have a section on your website where you sell beats. Can you tell us about that and how that works?
Yeah, so I recently opened up my personal beat store, which is called Clint Beats. And pretty much what I wanted to do was just make quality beats accessible to independent artists around the world who may not have access to, the same quality that you would get from Grammy Award winning and nominated artists and producers. So I wanted to give them an opportunity to, in a way, kind of, work with me and collab and kind of have that sound for a way lower budget. So it's kind of set up as it's licensing in a sense. Whereas, I have a list of tracks that are available for non-exclusive license. That way they don't have to break the bank. They can still work within their budget and still have, quality tracks to write to and create, their EPs or projects on. So that was my way of kind of, just giving back to the indie community, and just opening up, that door to have that high quality production.
So I've heard this term beats a lot over the last couple of years, and I think I pretty much understand how this works, but I want to make sure we're on the same page. So people can go to your website, they can buy these obviously pre-made beats that you've already created, and then they can do what on the top of it? They can sing on the top of it. They can do hip hop, rap. What is the application in which these beats are typically used?
Yeah, they can write over it, sing, rap. If they want to just buy it to listen to or use for just a video project or a spoken word project, they can do that as well. So yeah, I mean, there's limits to what you can do and how many units you can sell, because of that license. And, when you download it, you get, an agreement stating those terms. But yeah, pretty much they're free to write, sing, rap, spoken word, whatever they want to do with it.
And can they then turn around and license that into like a TV show or a film? Is that allowed within the parameters of the license? Now
that's where the limitations come in. Now this can be negotiated depending on the producer. If they want to allow that, they're able to, if they, word that in their contract. But in my agreement, I don't allow broadcast rights. It's only for, just for an EP or a project or even a video on YouTube. But as far as the TV film thing, I limit that, just because, I don't want and I don't think music supervisors want the headache of trying to track down who owns what. And they got 1,000 different versions of this song out and track. So I like to keep it separate. The beat store tracks are for the beat store, and then my music licensing tracks are for music licensing.
That makes sense. And so do you make good money from selling beats? Is it successful? Do you sell a lot of them?
I just started, so I've been selling maybe one a week. So it's really new. I'm new to it. I've never tried this, I guess this way of selling beats or producing beats. And most of that is because I didn't understand it at first. But as I looked and studied more into it, it made sense because especially when I got into music licensing and I looked at, selling beats, I was just like, okay, well, this is kind of the same thing. It's just a different market, I guess, versus it's not music supervisors and TV shows. It's just independent artists. The difference is whether or not you sell exclusive rights. You license it non-exclusively a bunch of times, and then, some people will sell exclusive rights, and then that one person, just owns the beat. That I limit it. I don't sell exclusively. It's just non-exclusively, because I didn't want that confusion.
And then if you sell them exclusively, you would charge more, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because aren't there guys, I mean, I've heard of people that are doing this, that are selling beats that are super successful, that make a lot of money doing this. Do you know of people doing this that are really successful?
Yeah, definitely. I follow a few guys, man. Like, I mean, super talented producers. Curtis King, Tone Jones. Like, these guys are, I mean, they're making a killing, and they're really, really great at what they do. So yeah, there's definitely guys out there. Superstar O, is another one. I mean, they're doing really good at selling beats, to independent artists all over the world.
That's awesome, man. It seems like you're a pretty savvy business guy. I mean, it seems like you've diversified your revenue streams really nicely. I mean, you're doing composing and writing, you're doing production, you're selling beats. I've noticed you're also selling books and resources and things of that nature. What advice do you have for people that want to follow in your footsteps? I mean, most of my listeners are, if not semi-professional already, they're aspiring to do licensing and publishing professionally. You know, people want to figure out how to make money from this. What advice or tips do you have for writers that are new to this that want to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, definitely. My advice would be to keep going. I actually just did a video on this, for my YouTube, and pretty much I was just saying, like, there comes a point, especially in music licensing, where you have to put in a lot of work before you see any fruits of your labor. And it gets really tough, man, because, you know, when I first started in music licensing, it was like, you know, you're knocking out tracks, you're submitting them, they're accepting them, but you don't see anything for quarters, and, you know, maybe I think it was about a year and a half, before I even seen anything. And it's that point that you have to work past to really reap the benefits. So the main thing would be not to give up, to keep going and just believe in yourself. You have to be consistent, and you have to create consistently. You have to create, often, because you can't create 5 tracks, send them off, they get accepted, and then just sit and wait and do nothing. Like, you have to create, you have to submit, and you have to forget about it and just repeat the process. Just keep cranking out tracks, keep sending them. And then, you know, eventually things will start to snowball, and you'll see your hard work pay off. Also, I would encourage everybody to really understand the business of music, and the different aspects, of how you can generate revenue. I think that's one of the hardest parts for musicians and artists and producers, is really monetizing their craft. So really study and look into ways you can monetize your craft. It doesn't just have to be the beat itself. You know, from a producer's perspective, you can sell, you know, loops and drum kits, and just kind of deconstruct your tracks and sell, you know, portions of those sounds that you've created over the years, and turn them into sound kits and sound packs, and then resell those to other producers who may need sound. So just really study, understand the business, understand publishing. You know, if you don't understand an agreement or a contract, you know, get an entertainment lawyer and have them look over it, so that, you know, you're put in the best situation possible, legally, and you're protecting yourself and your rights, and just make sure, you know, you understand what you're getting and what you're not getting.
Yeah, man, that's really exciting stuff. I feel like in a lot of ways right now is actually a really exciting time to be a musician, just in terms of the sheer number of different ways there are to monetize music currently. I mean, there's things like YouTube and Spotify, obviously music licensing, music production in your case, video games. There's a lot of different ways currently to make money from music, and obviously you need to sort of learn each different medium and learn how to maximize your results in each different medium. But there's a lot of ways to make money right now if you know what you're doing. But I feel like in terms of licensing, one of the key things you said in this podcast so far is that you have a catalog of like 500 tracks. You have a really large catalog. I know Eddie Gray, another composer I work with a lot, has 1,000+ tracks and growing. You need a lot of tracks for this to make sense, you know, to turn it into something really substantial. And I work with a lot of writers that I do consulting with. I did a consultation with someone earlier today, and he's like, I have one fully produced track ready to go. And he's like, is that enough? And I'm like, no, you need to really build this up to something substantial for it to become something substantial. But let me ask you this question. In the beginning, Anthony, when you were first starting out, how long did it take you until you really started to see things pay off?
It was a good year before I realized something got placed, but there later, like a year and a half, 2 years later, I found out that a track had actually got placed soon after I had signed with the library out in LA. But of course I didn't see it on my royalty statement until like a long time from then. But yeah, so that one was rather quick, but I didn't know anything about it. Then when I got paid for it, it was like 47 cents or something like that. So yeah, I mean, man, to see significant money, it was a good 2 years.
Yeah, it takes time, and that's one of the really kind of frustrating and weird things about this business is that a lot of times you don't actually find out about your placements until much later after the fact, 3 to 6 months in some cases. And I've had moments, of real frustration where I've really been down about my music career and the music I'm making at times. Mm-hmm. And unbeknownst to me, at that very moment, those very periods of frustration,
right,
I actually had music that was being placed. I just didn't know about it. And it's just a weird aspect of this industry. I mean, it would be really nice if you would get a phone call or something. Or, I mean, sometimes people do notify you, but a lot of times people don't. And it's just, you really have to look at this as a long-term endeavor, I guess. But what were you doing? In the beginning, you said it took a couple of years before this really turned into a substantial revenue stream. How were you supporting yourself in the very beginning?
So I'm a musician as well. So I was playing for a church, and that's kind of how I made my income on Sundays. So that was my income that really held me over through until music licensing started making up a significant income, and then working with independent artists, I had a couple artists where we were consistently working on their projects. So that kept income flowing in. And now, since I really focused on the music licensing aspect, now I really want that to be, the majority of my income, which it now is. I'm not exactly where I want to be yet. I set me a little plan up to get where I want to get, but that's what I was doing, while, just waiting for things to grow on the music licensing end.
Yeah, I think that's a real tricky thing for a lot of musicians that are pursuing this, is that they're looking to make money from their music right away, but it tends to take time. It doesn't tend to happen right away. You really have to be patient in this industry. What are your long-term objectives for licensing? Do you have a certain dollar amount you're hoping to make?
Yeah, I set a goal. What was it? Last year, the beginning of last year, I set a goal. On a 5-6 year, I want to hit six figures, within the next, 4 to 5 years. So that's the goal. I've hit 5. So now I want to hit 6.
Nice. And do you feel like you're on track to reach that goal?
Yeah, definitely. The main thing is going back to just being consistent and, just really, really cranking out the number of high quality tracks it takes to really get things moving and get things rolling, and just really multiplying, productivity. So yeah, definitely.
This is another question that I've asked quite a few different people that have been on this podcast. I don't ask everybody, but I'm always curious to kind of hear people's take on this. Do you find licensing your music to be artistically satisfying? Do you get that sense of artistic satisfaction when your music is licensed into a TV show or a commercial? Do you find this industry to be artistically fulfilling?
Mm-hmm. I would say yes and no. There's I guess with TV and film music, instrumentals, when it's instrumental only, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But sometimes I want to take my creativity to the next level as far as, just a full song and a full record. The great thing about music licensing is I'm still able to do that, create full songs for TV and film. So that allows me to really tap into that that, level of creativity. It's just not as much as the instrumental. But I won't complain if if I'm working on, a bunch of instrumental tracks for TV. But yeah, I like to balance it out and, be able to work on full records from time to time.
Yeah, I find licensing to be kind of strange in that sense. I mean, for me at least, I find the real joy I get is from creating and producing music, writing songs and creating songs. That's really the part that I love the most. The licensing aspect of it, I find that it lends a certain amount of validity to what I'm doing songwriting wise, but I don't really particularly care about any single placement. I mean, for the most part, unless it's like I landed a TV commercial a few months ago that I was really excited about. Don't get me wrong, I love the licensing aspect of it, but it's more, for me at least, it's more about the process of songwriting and creating music. And I feel like licensing, making money from music in general is pretty hard. So I feel like having something like licensing to sort of give you something to shoot for, to give you goals related directly to your music. And obviously making money is great too. But for me, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's more about the process.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Because it's when you sit down to work on a track, for licensing, what it takes for a track to get licensed. And once it's accepted, it has potential to earn revenue, versus if you're sitting down to create a track that, you want to pitch to, a major A-list artist. You don't know what's going to happen with that track or that song. So it's definitely, gratifying when you can sit down, know you're working on something for a specific purpose, and know that the chances of it being used and you being compensated for it is relatively high.
Yeah, and then when you receive your royalty checks, I mean, when you receive money for music that you've made, anytime you receive money for music that you've made in general, I think is just a really good feeling. There's something very fulfilling about knowing that you're getting paid for something that you love doing so much. Let me ask you another question though. Are you focusing on YouTube at all?
Yes, I've been actually for the past 2 years. I've really been focusing on building a YouTube. So I try and post a video once every week on there, and even recently I've been posting beats from the beat store on there as well to kind of promote that. So yeah, YouTube is a great platform. So yeah, I've definitely been focusing on that more.
Cool. Have you been monetizing your YouTube videos? So
funny story about monetization on YouTube. So in the midst of me building this YouTube channel, it started growing. I picked up momentum. I was monetizing, and then they came out with that, the new guidelines, right? So I was like cranking out content. I was just like, I need to get these videos up, because I was literally, I don't know, I was like 1,000 watch time minutes under the guide that you needed to have to continue, being monetized. So I was under that, and I hit it the week that of that deadline, but I guess I didn't hit it in time. Like literally, I was probably like a day short. And my video, the latest video, did like really good, and I was a day short, and they took away my monetization. So I had to reapply. So it's like in the process of being reviewed, because like I'm way over the qualifications now. Excuse me. So yeah, so that's what happened. Right now I'm not being monetized, but now I'm just waiting for the review to come back so they can get me back on board.
Have you looked into any other third-party services? For example, there's companies like AdRev that will monetize your tracks regardless of whether or not it's your channel or if your music is used on somebody else's channel. Have you looked into any of those types of services?
No, I haven't heard of AdRev. No, that sounds interesting. I do use Amazon Associates, so I have links to all of the gear and equipment that I use down in the description. But other than that, no, I'll have to look into that. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, this is something that maybe for those of you listening to this, you might be interested in this. But I had a composer named Dhruva Aliman. We did a course together about 2 years ago, a year and a half or 2 years ago, something like that. But we did a course specifically on the topic of how to make money on YouTube. And Dhruva is the composer who first turned me on to this service, AdRev. But the way it works is you upload your tracks to AdRev. It's totally free to sign up. You upload your tracks, and then what they do is they go on YouTube and they scour YouTube to find videos that are using your tracks, whether or not they're your videos or if other people are making videos using your music, and they place ads on those videos and then they distribute it. I think it's something like 80% of the ad revenue goes back to you, the artist. So far, I've only uploaded 5 or 6 tracks, something like that, and I'm starting to get like $10 here, $20 there. But I can see the potential. Now, Dhruva, the guy that I created this course with, is making like $50,000 a year just from this revenue stream, but he's totally, like, he's figured out how to dominate on YouTube. He's getting millions of views on his videos, and he's, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, is that there's a lot of ways to make money, but you really need to figure everything out. But yeah, definitely check out AdRev. I
will. That sounds pretty cool. A question about that. Now, say you have that track on your channel, does it, they don't, because you know how some companies, like, if you have a track on there and they kind of like block your monetization from YouTube, or can you like whitelist your channel, or how does that work?
I'm pretty sure the way it works, I'm not 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure the way it works is you need to own 100% of the rights for the tracks that you upload to services like AdRev. For example, I have a publisher who controls, for some of the songs that I signed to her, there's an opt-in to have her do YouTube monetization. So I couldn't upload those tracks to services like AdRev because she already controls the YouTube and digital media part of licensing. But as long as you own 100% of the tracks, you can upload them to services like AdRev.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that.
Cool. Well, listen, Anthony, thanks so much for doing this today. Thanks to Eddie Gray for connecting us. Great to have you on.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And shout out to Eddie, man, for making a connection.
Nice. Well, let's do a couple things before you go. Let's tell people your website address so people can go learn more about you. Your website URL is clintproductions.com. That's CLINT, clintproductions.com. So definitely go check out Anthony's website, learn all about his music, his production services, and so on. And the other thing I'd like to do is to play one of your tracks at the end of this. I'd like to feature a track from every guest that I have on. Do you have a track you can send me?
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can do that. No problem.
Cool. Do you have any idea what the name of the track will be off the top of your head? Do you know what you'll send me?
I'm going to have to figure it out. I got to sort through these tracks.
Do you know if it'll be an instrumental track?
It'll be instrumental.
Cool. So this is an instrumental track. Yeah, we'll just say it's an instrumental track from Anthony Clinton Jr. And then if you can send me the title of the track after the podcast, I can edit that into the podcast at the very end. Okay,
great. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Cool. Well, Anthony, listen, thanks so much for doing this today. It was really a pleasure to speak with you today, and have a great day.
Will do, Aaron. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.